Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Morhonda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three in.
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. It's Jim Coyle. Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Speed Radio. Coming to you, of course, on this beautiful Thursday, February 23rd, from high atop the 18th fairway at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Don't forget Indiana Sports Speed Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington, where you can get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com, the best selection of new and used vehicles. And Endeavor Hospitality and their family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington area. Great places like Phoebe's Market, where you will find me tomorrow. The best of in-house made products, custom meats, an in-house full-size bakery. It's just great. Like Dustin Schutte. On today's program, Dustin Schutte. Matt Taylor joins us from the Colts. Rick Bozich, the Hall of Famer from WDRB.com. Chris Denari from the Pacers, and Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. How are you? Welcome aboard. Please give a warm round of applause for my co-host, Dustin Schutte.
I can hear it from all over the country, the applause, welcoming me back after one day off on assignment.
Well, you know, if John, the producer, had our machine going, there would have been a...
I know, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, I could have had a little applause meter right there.
We could have had a golf clap for me.
Bingo.
Although I feel like silence is probably more appropriate for myself.
Yeah, I'm used to silence. I prefer it. How's everybody doing? Hope you're having a great day and a great start to it. Getting closer and closer to the weekend. Appreciate everyone hitting us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Indiana and Purdue this weekend. We'll hear from Woody today. Actually, his presser is today. Hopefully tomorrow we'll hear from Matt Painter, and I'll see into the other participants that'll be made available. This is one of them good old-fashioned games, but Indiana coming off of the type of game they played, a little bit of pressure on them.
Yep.
God, you play like that, and they might get beat badly.
They might, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that they're going. I mean, this is Purdue, Indiana, and unlike under the Archie Miller regime,
Indiana. I can't help it. See, there's just certain words that trigger in my brain, you know.
Mr. Clayton Anderson, right?
Who?
Wasn't that the Clayton Anderson song? He wrote that.
No.
Yes, it sounds, unless he covered it, because Clayton Anderson wrote a version of that about 6 months
Well, he
ago.
may have. Oh, this is from 12 years ago.
Okay.
This is those
it
two
sounded
kids.
exact the same.
This is
Exactly
those
the
two
same.
kids during the Tom Crean era, man.
But you were singing "This Is Indiana." That's something.
Yeah.
Really different.
Yeah.
Yeah, something.
It sounded like the
like
Clayton
that.
Anderson song, which is called Indiana.
It probably sounded like a lot of things.
It did
None
sound
of
like a
them-
lot of things.
None of them were good.
I don't think
None of them good.
I don't think that Indiana's going to get run out of the gym, though. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Like I said, I don't think Archie Miller took this game seriously. I don't think it was any different than Illinois or Ohio State or Michigan State. This means something to Mike Woodson. The players, they had success against Purdue on their home court. Last year, it was kind of the same thing, right? Like Indiana won a close game at Assembly Hall, and they I can't remember if they had a chance to win or tie at the very end of that game last year at Mackey Arena, and nobody gave them a chance. This team is playing much better, and obviously there's something on the line for both teams. Purdue's still trying to win a Big Ten regular season title. Indiana's trying to maintain its spot in the top four. I think it's going to be a great game. I mean, you're right. They're going to have to hit shots, but I think that you're going to see a level of intensity like you saw the first time these two teams played in Bloomington.
Pete checking in from Santa's
Oh, no.
workshop, as he calls it, Snowmageddon, MSP, otherwise known as Minneapolis St. Paul. 14 inches of snow so far, with 4 more coming. Hold on. 35-mile-an-hour winds. Thank you, Kevin Warren. That, my friends, that is the site of this year's women's Big Ten basketball tournament. And that, my friend, is the site of next year's men's basketball tournament. Thanks again, Kevin Warren, on your way out the door with the big kiss off. He did what he did while he was the commissioner, and then he leaves. He still leaves a nice big old pile waiting for you.
Yep. Look, that guy just did things to boost his resume to get another job. I mean, I think we saw that.
I don't know how his resume was boosted
in 2020.
He'd have to lie.
Well, he accomplished in quotations, but he can put stuff.
But before I forget, and we'll get that the where is Pete's comment that he put up? There you go. Okay. Yeah. And then somebody said, I hope you and your family are okay. Don't feel sorry for him. He chose to live there. He chose to live at Santa's workshop. Do not feel sorry for him. I can say that because he's a friend of mine, but
I was going to say, we're going to have a fight between Jim and Pete.
No, I like to give him crap because he does. There's no reason to live there. It's not by choice. It was 72. I wore shorts yesterday. Outside. How about that?
I appreciate that clarifier.
Well, walking around like going. But
didn't break out the golf clubs yesterday?
No, it was very windy.
Oh. Well, that might help your slice.
Hey, see my hat? Dr. Hops. That's Dr. Hops.
There you go. I like it.
From
looking good.
That's Dr. Hops from Metalworks Brewing Company. Pretty good logo, isn't it?
It's a great logo. I love it.
It is. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah, we'll talk all kinds of Purdue, Indiana today, for certain. Did you know Chris Reynolds is on the selection committee?
I did not. I don't know anything about the selection committee. To be quite honest.
I know very little about it this year right now, so I haven't looked at it. I did not know that, but a lot came out about Indiana getting that one of those first top 16 seeds. It surprised a lot of people, and then they go out and lay an egg, so that did not help their own cause. So there's that we can talk about. And how about the live golfers? Am I reading this correct? That live players allowed in the PGA Championship and all 4 majors?
Yeah, probably. I have not seen that update. I was pretty much off of social media yesterday, but that would not be surprising to me because those are all independent of the PGA Tour, even the PGA Championship. So,
well, this is in Golf Digest, and it says live golf players will be able to compete at all 4 majors this year. The PGA of America announced its eligibility requirements for the 2023 PGA Championship on Wednesday. And despite past signals about LIV defectors possibly jeopardizing their status for the tournament, members of the Saudi-backed tournament will indeed get to compete for the Wanamaker Trophy this year at Oak Hill in Rochester, New York.
Here's the thing. This is in my opinion, this is twofold. One, PGA of America and all these major championships do not want to deal with the lawsuits. That would absolutely come if that was the case. Number two, it's good for the sport. I mean, I'm not a big fan of
best golf. They don't want to listen to the stories of, well, you don't have so and so, you don't have so and so.
There's that, but I'm saying it's almost the villain versus right? The good guy, the hero, because you're going to have guys. It's going to be
dude,
Rory
when you
McIlroy,
got
Tiger Woods,
Patrick Reed.
Justin Thomas. Yep,
Patrick
exactly.
Reed.
Golf has very rarely had a villain, and now you're going to have, I don't know, probably 8 to 10 of them in the field. That's going to be good for viewership. I don't know what in terms of how much it's going to grow, but
it's going to be I think it's the smartest move they could have made.
I mean, imagine
but
them
also,
pairing Patrick Reed with Rory
also
McIlroy
there's two other things
after what they did. Okay.
Yeah. First of all, the guys that did this, that made that move, the people that are benefiting are the PGA players. They have benefited because the PGA had to do something. They had to respond.
Right.
They had to raise purses. They had to create these other ways where players can make more money. Why? Because those guys made the move. So guess who those PGA players have to thank? The guys that made the move. If it didn't happen, they're not making the money. The PGA's keeping it. If I was the tour player, I'd be pissed at the PGA. Why didn't you do this before? Why didn't you do this on your own?
Well,
But
I think
the guys who left that actually caused the change are the ones that are being villainized.
Right. Well, and I think, it's because of where the money's coming from. And by the way, I don't know if you've read into some of the live
You know
stuff.
what?
I don't know if the money's going to be there. Like it's still very sketchy to me. I don't know where the money is, where it's coming from. It seems like they may not be able to pay their players in a year. So it's very interesting to see where this is going. They
could pay their players into the year 2023.
I'm telling you, I've read some stuff out there that is well researched that indicates that maybe some of these guys aren't getting paid the money that they were promised. And I don't know specifically why, if it's because of performance, if it's because of events, if it's just because it was year one, I don't know. But there's some interesting stuff that's going to happen on that tour in probably the next 12 to 18 months. And it has nothing to do with what's going to happen on the golf course.
Hey, I want to shout out to everybody listening up in the region, to our region rats listening up on WJOB, 12:30 a.m., 104.7 FM. Our river rats listening down on ESPN 97.7 ESPN. The rep, always the red call in Evansville. 89.9 Marengo. Big shout out to you guys as well. And soon to be, we've got another one, but going to keep that under wraps. But the fans up in the Northwest Indiana, Chicago, you can catch us on radio now there. And soon to be another big ad that Fort Wayne. What's that? For fans in Fort Wayne, we'll soon be available on radio there. But they'll keep everything else under wraps. But very excited to let you know that as Indiana Sports Beat continues to expand our reach, man. Trying as we grow the show. Grow the show, baby. Grow the show.
Grow the show.
I think John's telling us to take a break.
Si, senor.
He's very quiet and subtle. We got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by BB's Market, your butcher, baker, no matter where you live, with the greatest and freshest of in-house made products, full-size bakery, as well as all the custom meats you desire. And where you'll find me tomorrow, because it's where I get the bacon that I have perfected. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I think I got to go to the store and buy new pants today.
I really wish you would have saved that for on the air.
I can bring it back up later, trust me.
I hope you do, Don't even talk about it now. I would love to hear that.
Who are we going to talk about it with? We got a full slate today.
Dylan Sinn. Actually, any of them. Matt Taylor. That'd be a great start.
To Matt. Well, that's true. We don't have a ton to talk about NFL.
Open the segment. Just open the segment with that comment.
All right. I'll be right back.
What? What is today?
The 23rd, a Thursday.
It's Thursday. I keep dun 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 dun. Oh, did I mention this yesterday? Did you see that Apple TV is the front runner to get Pac-12 football rights?
I did see that. Yes.
Man, I just hate how you're going to have all these.
I'm not doing
damn
it.
Services. It's bull.
Here's what's going to happen. You're going to have.
I hope it fails.
No, it's not going to fail. What's going to happen is somebody's going to come along and bundle all this stuff together, and it'll be just like it'll be just like satellite again,
like cable. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. I hope all this separate crap fails. I'm tired of having multiple things.
I know.
I hope all this separate crap fails, man.
I do not sound like Jack Grossman.
Jack Grossman.
oh, man. That's harsh.
Well, I know that's the voice you're doing.
No, it's not. It's just a voice.
All right, here we go.
With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Thursday and doesn't look bad outside the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios windows. I think it's going to be kind of nice today, as a matter of fact. Here, at least. Where you are, I don't know. Because you guys are everywhere. And we love it. Yeah, a high of 63 today. But sunny and not windy. Boy, you could talk about flying a kite yesterday. Woohoo!
Is that what you do for a good time? Go outside, take a kite?
Man, I haven't flown a kite in so long. That's funny. Remember, I had a little box kite. Remember that? They had all kinds of little kites. Apple TV is the front runner to get Pac-12 football rights. Man, how far the Pac-12 has fallen.
They already have trouble with viewership because they're late night kickoffs, and now you're going to put them on Apple TV. Not even going to get kind of the attention they think they will. I don't think.
Well, yeah, who's going to watch? Dude, there's just no way. People are not going to subscribe to Apple TV to watch Pac-12 football.
No. It's very unlikely, very doubtful. But, I mean, I don't know what – they don't have a whole hell of a lot of options at this stage. Like, everybody's spending the money on the SEC and the Big Ten, so.
Well, it shows you how weak the Pac-12 is because the Big 12 were rated just as equally as the Pac-12. There's no way you're not going to tell me that losing Texas and Oklahoma does not compare to USC and UCLA, other than it's in the Los Angeles television market. Right. But you add when you throw Texas back in there, you basically gain Dallas, Houston, San Antonio. You're gaining all those TV markets. Austin, you're gaining all those markets. So there's no way it's not a wash. But the rest of the Pac-12, I mean the Big 12, screw it. We'll go on. And they're doing it quite well. Basketball-wise, best conference in the country right now. That's all. I mean, you want to talk about murderer's row, go play a game in the Big 12.
This is what Matt Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts came on to hear us talk about today was Pac-12 moving to Apple TV.
I didn't know Matt was with us yet.
You guys are running the gauntlet. I like it.
It's better than Matt Taylor having to go to Apple TV.
That's true.
Or the Colts. We don't have to.
Doesn't matter. Hey, I can go to YouTube TV, Apple TV. I can go to Netflix. I can go to Prime. People will follow me wherever I go. It doesn't matter.
You are ambiguous.
Exactly.
You are ambiguous.
I am the streaming Pied Piper.
He is. He's like water. It doesn't matter. Just wherever he flows, baby.
I will find the cracks.
And they will find you. They will find him. How is Matt Taylor doing?
Matt Taylor's doing fantastic. It's 53, going to get up to 70 today here in the Circle City. So life is pretty good in late February, believe it or not.
7-0, baby. I didn't know it was getting up to that. Hello. Yeah, that's a joyful thing to hear. And we're like a week away from March. Just lovely words that you love to hear coming out of people's mouths. Things are very, very happy in Colts land right now. I know that there's other things that are on their plate coming up, but from a coaching standpoint, the hire seems to have made most people happy. I don't think I've seen any grumblings about anyone that really didn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, it's like we talked about last week. You know, Shane Steichen comes in with 4+ years of offensive play calling experience and, you know, directed a team to the Super Bowl that's had a high degree of success with, 3 different style of quarterbacks like we talked about a little bit. And so it's exciting. And now, you know, you're starting to get some word and some reports about the staff starting to file in terms of the offensive coordinator being hired, maybe a running backs coach, maybe a tight ends coach in the fold. And so I think the big question now going forward is, you know, what are the Colts going to do on the defensive side of the ball? You know, you haven't heard any news about, you know, a defensive coordinator coming in. Is Gus Bradley and most of that defensive staff going to be retained and keep their jobs? And, the special teams coordinator, Bubba Ventrone, is also being looked at by the Cleveland Browns this week. And so is there a threat of him not coming back and leaving for, you know, a destination where he
Snowmageddon happens every time. Dun, 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 dun. Well, I think Matt lost his connection for a second. He'll probably pop back on and just keep on rolling. And when he does, we'll stop.
I'm here. You got me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry about
Let
that.
her rip, baby. That's all right. It happens.
I don't know. I trailed off. I wasn't even paying attention to what I was saying.
Well, I do have a.
Who is this? Who am I talking to? Who is this?
Conversation rolling was. We've got the NFL scouting combine coming up here in the next couple days. What kind of preparation do you do? What all are your responsibilities at the NFL combine? Because I know that you put a lot into that. This next couple days coming up.
Well, I had to get in great shape. You're talking to Matt.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Jim has to touch his toes first.
Man, I haven't touched my toes in years. What are you talking about?
Yeah, we know. Not that hard. Yes, we're going to be at the Combine Tuesday through Friday of next week, sort of in line in conjunction on Radio Row with the rest of the media. So between now and then, it's really boning up on the draft and really starting to understand the storylines that surround the Colts as it pertains to the draft, and some of the other movers and shakers in terms of what other teams might be looking at, what are their other draft needs, understanding the quarterback dynamic going into this draft. Because we got a lot of people lined up that we're going to talk to, a lot of draft nicks, some draft analysts from ESPN, ESPN.com, the NFL Network, NFL.com, CBS. So we're going to be talking to a ton of people. And the NFL's done such a great job of turning the Combine into a must-attend event if you cover the league or you're a beat writer, anything of the sort, because it's a marketing event, because what they do is they make every single general manager, every single head coach available. And it's basically the first time for a lot of these coaches and GMs to talk in public to the media for the first time since the end of the season. So it's almost like an off-season State of the Union for 32 franchises. Plus, the draft prospects are made available at the podium. So it's like a football convention, because it's a perfect blend of NFL, because all of these guys are going to be trickling into the league, but then also guys that cover college football and the draft are there as well. So you're talking over 3,500 credentialed media members covering this event that consists of, again, coaches, GMs, and over 300 draft prospects. I mean, if you've never been to a combine, it's like nothing you've ever seen before. It really is just a gigantic football. Again, I just use the word convention, and it's almost just as beneficial if you cover the league or you cover college football to be there during the day, but also at night, right? I mean, just kind of walk around and see who you stumble into and strike up a conversation with, and you just hear all the gossip and the rumors at all the steakhouses downtown and the bars and all the bar tops that really kind of those conversations between agents and GMs and coaches, those pretty much shape the off season of the NFL every year. And it's pretty cool because it all happens in basically a 2-block radius in downtown Indianapolis. So when you think about it from that standpoint, Indianapolis for about 5-6 days is just the epicenter of the football and arguably the sports world, because of how massive this sport is.
How much gets done at St. Elmo's? How much business, NFL business, gets done at St. Elmo's?
I mean, just tons. It's not just there. It's Prime 47. It's Harry and Izzy's. It's just kind of pick your poison on whatever you're into, and what night it is, how steakhouse out you are, considering how long you've been in town and how many meals you've had, so on and so forth. I mean, some of these guys, I'm good. I just want a burger from Steak and Shake, and maybe a deal gets done there, right, on a napkin between an agent and a coach or a general manager ahead of free agency. And that's something that we forget. I mean, as soon as the combine is over, boom, free agency starts in 2 weeks, right in the middle of March. So, I mean, it's hilarious because the Super Bowl is played. 2 weeks later, it's the combine. 2 weeks later, free agency. Then about, 2 weeks after the start of free agency, a month later, it's the draft. So it really is full bore, all, full steam ahead from here on out in the off season. And things are definitely heating up as the Colts try to make, the second of 2 gigantic decisions this offseason, right? Because they already have the head coach. Now it's what do they do in the draft and how, or I should say, what direction do they go at quarterback, picking 4th overall?
Well, my only complaint about St. Elmo's, and it's not really a knock against the restaurant, but I always put way too much cocktail sauce on the shrimp. And I wish I could take a picture of
thing. There's no
for
such thing.
For the St. Elmo's cocktail sauce, absolutely there is. In my face, like I just start crying, but it's a good cry. It's a happy cry. Just the tears start flowing. Matt, I wanted to ask.
It's like that Yogi Berra line, like in regards to St. Elmo's, he said nobody goes there anymore because it's too crowded. I mean, if you try to make a reservation for St. Elmo, I mean, you better do it a month and a half in advance.
That or the only way I've gotten in the last couple times is to do it at we're getting the early bird special, right? Like 4:15 4:15, 4:30, and you sit anywhere and you take your time and enjoy it. But
they're not even really open yet.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I've been in there.
They're just practicing.
Well, their practice round is better than most. And I mean,
absolutely. Just kidding. Absolutely. What is up next for you, sir?
Just combine next week. Like I said, we'll be down at the convention center in Lucas Oil Stadium and hopping back.
Do you set up shop? Do you just set up a booth? You should just set up a booth at St. Elmo's. Forget Radio Row. maybe I should set up one at St. Elmo's and just I'll wait there. You all do your stuff there, and I'll set up at St. Elmo's and we'll do it there as everybody comes in. I like that idea.
It's actually great because I just sit on Radio Row and I just sort of scour and talk to people both on the air, off the air, and just it's a great networking convention. It's a great way to meet people and pick their brain on what they're doing. How they handle certain situations and talk to fellow play-by-play guys or guys that cover the league. And so I just sit there in the chair and sort of migrate around Radio Row a little bit and schmooze it up and glad hand. And I bring my lunch. I mean, I'm the guy that sits in the corner by myself for lunch because I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to move. I don't want to miss anything. Yeah. So I bring the lunch and just sort of camp out, talk football for 6 hours a day for 5 straight days. It's pretty awesome.
What we talked a lot about the quarterback position and where the Colts might go. Obviously, we don't know just yet. We're going to find out some things probably at the combine and over the next couple weeks. But what would be the next position of need for the Colts? Where do you see this team focusing most of its attention when the draft rolls around, or free agency for that matter?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? Because for, I guess, the better part of 2 months now, we've been so focused on quarterback. And then I think if you think about the next most important position within this offense, and it's probably true for every offense, it's left tackle. And again, you're probably going to pencil in Bernhard Raimann at that spot as we sit here and talk right now in mid-February. But that's not to say you don't continue to address that position and build up some competition or have some more viable options in free agency or the draft. I mean, if one of those positions is available, in the second round or third round, I still think you go that route considering just how raw Bernhard Raimann still is, despite getting 9 starts in the NFL last year. And just you want to have stability and consistency at that left tackle position. If you do go the route of bringing in a rookie quarterback, you have to have that. That would just obviously, build up confidence and the production of a rookie quarterback would be tied into protection along the offensive line, mainly at the left tackle position. And I also, too, think it makes a lot of sense, maybe in the third round or day 2 early in the 4th round or 5th round, continue to bring in playmaking ability at the wide receiver position or a tight end position, that hybrid, very athletic, mobile tight end to, again, just take some of the load off of a rookie quarterback. I mean, you want the stress of the rookie QB to be as low as possible for as long as possible. Hopefully Jonathan Taylor can come back. Hopefully this offensive line can rebound after having a very disappointing collective year last year, giving up 60 sacks. But I think it makes a lot of sense to continue to help a rookie quarterback in as many ways as possible. And for me, that includes bringing in playmakers to go along with Michael Pittman Jr. and Alec Pierce and Jelani Woods. We'll see if Paris Campbell comes back in free agency, but there's going to be a ton of responsibility and a lot on that rookie quarterback's shoulders if you decide to go that route, both off the field and certainly on the field, with being the face of the franchise, being the obviously the captain of the team and the focal point of the offense. You want to help that guy in as many ways as possible. That's why I think it's always good to kind of tap into the depth of the draft, which now always consists of wide receivers. Wide receivers, you can get, I would say day 1, maybe day 2 contributors, both on the first day of the draft and the second day of the draft. I mean, we saw guys last year put up 500 and 600 yards receiving that were taken in the 3rd round, the 4th round. So, the way the college football is being played right now, you guys know this. The league, or I should say college football, is so deep with guys that can catch the ball and can run after the catch because of the way college is played right now with the spread and, looking over to the sidelines and getting plays in quickly and just throwing the ball all over the yard. I think those guys can play in the NFL right away in the right scheme, and that's why I think it makes sense for the Colts to maybe go that route to help build the synergy and the chemistry of a young playmaking wide receiver to go along with hopefully a dynamic quarterback.
Matt Taylor brings the synergy to us every week, baby. We love it. Matthew, I hope you have a great weekend and enjoy this beautiful day that we're about to have and that 70-degree weather.
You got it. I appreciate you guys as always. I'll check in with you next week at the Combine.
Matt Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Brought to you by our good friends from Go Team Bites. Always on the go, whether it's you, your kids, or the team, it's hard to find fresh, tasty food that is convenient to eat on the fly. Go Team was created for go-getters like you. Go Team is full of fresh, healthy ingredients, and each recipe contains high-quality protein powder. And they come in multiple great flavors. You can get them at GoTeamBites.com or just pick them up at BB's. We've got lots more. Rick Bozich, Dylan Sinn coming up next here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here's a deal you...
Hello, Dylan.
Morning. How are you guys?
Lovely. How are you?
Uh-oh.
Not bad.
What'd you say uh-oh for, Dustin?
Oh, well, on my side, I got the spinning wheel of death when Dylan popped
you're
up.
fine.
Oh, the
So
spinning
while you guys
wheel
were
of
talking, I
death.
couldn't see him.
Dustin, I don't know if I told you this. We're going to be on radio up in Fort Wayne soon.
How are you?
You told
Yes,
me
sir.
that.
What station?
Dylan. I'll tell you where people can't hear, but people can hear us right now, so I don't want to.
I got you. Well,
But
congratulations.
I bet you can. Figure it out.
Oh, okay.
But yes, I love it because we're on in the region in Chicago now, and so I give shout outs to say, hey, or shout out to our region rats. And then we're on down in Evansville, so I call them the River Rats. And then I'm going to have 10 rats.
Ooh, I like that.
Huh?
Like 10 caps?
Hello.
Yeah. Oh,
He
that'll be a lot
10
of fun.
rats.
Just playing up.
The 10 rats, the region rats, the river rats.
What would you call? You can't do river rats for Louisville if we get on at Louisville.
They're the bats.
The river bats. That's true. They were the
there
river
you
bats
go.
at one point.
Because they already are the freaking bats.
Today is the anniversary of Bob Knight throwing the chair.
Gotta
There we
pull it up,
go.
John.
Almost anniversaries of all time.
John, you got to pull it up.
Why? Do we really need a photo
How about
of that?
that?
How about we just throw this up there?
I like it. Bam.
That's fine with me.
Or we can throw up Hoosier Pride.
No.
Oh, God. Whoa.
Or even
Look.
better,
Why is it?
creepy Tom Crean with his Georgia recruit from a couple of years
yeah.
ago.
There you
Oh
go.
my God.
But you got those all saved.
I know. What other good ones do we got? Oh, just for
Hey, there's your boy.
yeah. We got Mick Mars.
Why do we have some of these? Why did you have Purdue Pete?
It was during the mascot conversation.
Oh,
when we had
okay.
the Hoosier Pride stuff.
Gotcha.
Purdue Pete was voted the most creepy mascot in college athletics.
That's probably fair. Yep.
All right, here we go.
To help you with your selections, Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday. It's February 23. Dustin Schutte with me as always, and we're joined by Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Hello, Mr. Dylan. How are you, sir?
Morning, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. It's always glad to have you, especially since we'll be on Fort Wayne Radio soon, joining up there. So it's fortuitous for you to be on with us. What's new with Mr. Dylan?
Oh, not a whole lot. We had a lot of rain in Fort Wayne yesterday.
Everybody else has a lot of snow. Everybody else is complaining about snow up there.
Yeah, no, that was the thing is that Michigan got all the snow and it was a little warmer here, so we just got rain, but it poured for basically the entire day. We had some flood watch and stuff like that, but other than that, we're doing okay.
Notre Dame football or basketball, they're in kind of no man's land right now. They're in the ACC, which sucks right now, which used to be the premier. It used to be the Big Ten and the ACC, and right now it's the Big Ten and the Big 12. But Notre Dame basketball, they're in kind of it's not that it's not a job that people won't want, but again, they're in the ACC, which is it's Notre Dame. I don't know. That's a tough coaching job.
It is. No, absolutely. Mike Bray obviously has not had a ton of success there over the last 5 years or so. They made the tournament last year and had a nice little run. But outside of that, it had been a little bit since they had last made a run in the NCAA tournament. And Mike Bray is a very, very good coach who had a lot of success there. But that's a job that people are going to want. Notre Dame has for as much as everyone knows about Notre Dame football, there's plenty of tradition in Notre Dame basketball. They've had success over the years. They've had good coaches. And so there are going to be coaches who want that job. There are going to be no shortage of them. And so they will get a good coach. It's just a question of who it's going to be.
Yeah, we'll certainly see. Of course, Indiana and Purdue coming up this weekend. We'll talk about that. Before we get to that, though, Alabama and their situation, I'm shocked that the school, the president itself, has not stepped in. The athletics director, someone obviously beyond Nate Oates, who, judging by his comments, is a little too far removed from the reality of the situation. And I'm talking about their star player who led them to a win last night with 30 plus points. But this is the guy who got a text to bring a gun to a murder scene, a loaded weapon to a murder scene, to what would become a murder scene. He did. He takes this gun to this guy, and it is used in the commitment of that murder, and yet nothing. I'm shocked that they're not at least saying, all right, we've got to at least look at this. You can't play for a couple of games, we sit you down, something. No, they're like, oh God, this season's not going to be derailed come hell or high water.
Yeah, I mean, it's
like SEC football all over again.
Well, I mean, Alabama, first of all, is having a very good season. That is the reality of the situation. Nate Oates obviously had to clarify his comments yesterday. Even he said that he was a poor choice of words, is what he said when he said that Brandon Miller was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Which obviously, no matter what you think happened in that situation, I don't think that is the case. I don't even think Brandon Miller would say that was the case. So yeah, it's a very odd situation. It's kind of hard to talk about exactly what's going on there because we still haven't really gotten a full airing of the facts with that situation.
It's the one thing that is clear. He took a loaded weapon. He received a text, took a loaded weapon to this guy where the murder was committed. I mean, those are the few facts that have come out. That is what makes this the more mind-boggling to me. I'm like going,
Alabama, what are you doing? Are you kidding me? This is on the heels. This is going on at the same time that Michigan State is having these ceremonies and memorials to the students that were just killed on that campus. And yet here's a player that took a loaded weapon to a murder scene where a murder was committed, and this dude's still playing.
No, it's just a wild situation in kind of college basketball, and it's not something. I mean, you don't see this every year. Like that it's just kind of something that has kind of come out of nowhere, essentially, with this program. And man, this is a team that was ranked number 1 in the country just a couple of weeks ago. And I feel like Alabama, it is one of those things where we talk a lot about Purdue. We've talked a lot about Houston this year. We've talked about a bunch of other teams at the top. We haven't talked a ton about Alabama this year, just because they've always kind of flown under the radar in basketball. And right now, they're the talk of college basketball for multiple reasons. And that's just, it's a wild situation down there in Tuscaloosa.
Here's what I'm going to say. John, get ready for the bleep button or to mark this down so you can bleep it out. Because I'm not going to speak on the facts of the case. I don't know them. I don't know if Brandon Miller's innocent, guilty. I don't know the law, so I'm not going to speak on it. But what really pisses me off in these sort of situations is we often hear coaches talk about learning life lessons, right? And let's say best case scenario, the scenario I would like to believe is that Brandon Miller is innocent and it was an unfortunate circumstance. I don't know. That's why I'm not speaking on the facts of the case. This is strictly let's say best case scenario. He is innocent in all of this. I'm not going to dive into the facts of the case. You cannot play that kid based on what we know, in my opinion. That's what I would say. So we talk about these coaches talk about we got to learn life lessons. It's bigger than basketball. This is about life. If you have to sit that kid and say, look, I know you're innocent. We got to wait for the facts to come out. I know it stinks. You have to sit out. That's a lesson that sometimes life is shitty, right? Like sometimes things don't go your way and you have to learn those lessons. The refusal to teach that actual life lesson in this potential best case scenario is he chose wins over, in my opinion, Nate Oates is choosing wins over somebody's life. That's my opinion. I don't know the facts, but you can't sit there and say I'm teaching more than basketball because you're full of shit. That's basically the bottom line. He's choosing to play a player over somebody else's life. And again, I don't know the facts, but best case scenario, you got to sit that kid and say, look, I know it's unfair, but sometimes life is unfair.
Keeping John busy.
That's all
today.
I'm going to say on it because I don't.
Let's end the expletives there.
I'm done with that. I'm done with that. I just wanted to say hopefully that didn't come off poorly. I don't want to speak on the facts of the case. I'm just saying in a best case scenario, if he is innocent, you still have to sit him because of what we know, because of the circumstance. That's all I got to say.
I will say one thing that kind of is interesting to think about from Indiana's perspective is that if you'll recall back in the spring of 2021 when Archie Miller was fired, Nate Oates was a name that people were talking about as someone who Indiana wanted or was thinking about, and so kind of just the
it's
sliding.
No different than what's his name from Texas?
Oh, Chris Beard. Yeah.
Chris Beard, yes.
Yeah. And so just kind of the sliding doors aspect of that of what if it was Nate Oates leading Indiana right now instead of Mike Woodson and what would be going on with Indiana right now and just kind of the way that the program would be at this point. It's just a strange hypothetical to think about.
Well, Indiana has seen a season like that come crashing down. You think back to Kelvin Sampson, and that's what happened. You had a great season, and all of a sudden, bing, walls come crumbling down. That's something that will continue to go on, especially as we get nearer and nearer to NCAA tournament time. But the big game on everybody's mind this weekend, without question, Dylan, Indiana traveling to West Lafayette to take on Purdue. Obviously, Indiana beat Purdue at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. Purdue very, very tough to beat at home. They've been tough to beat, period, this year. I'm not saying Indiana cannot win the game, but they cannot win the game in the ways I've seen them play on the road. They cannot win the game the way I saw them play at Michigan State. They're not even going to win the game the way I saw them play at Michigan. It's going to take more than that. They just, this third guy just is a figment of imagination. It's an apparition. He comes in and you think that they have him, and all of a sudden, poof, there is no third guy. And it cannot be the Jalen Hutchifino and Trace Jackson Davis show. That will only go. That's the same thing for Purdue. That's why I don't see them getting past the second round in the tournament. I think that the guard play is going to eventually catch up to them, and I think that one of those Big 12 teams, they're going to handle Zach Edey. All you got to do is put him in a box, and we've seen the ways to beat Purdue. So, but this weekend's game, it will be emotional. Purdue, obviously, the Mackey crowd is going to be crazy, and Indiana could sure use this win after losing on the road. That would be a great resume stuffer, but they're not going to be expected to win this game.
No, and it's going to be interesting because if Northwestern loses at Illinois tomorrow, or tonight, I should say, Purdue will be able to clinch a Big Ten title with a win over Indiana. So Indiana would have to watch Purdue cut the nets essentially if they lost that game. So that would be an added storyline. But no, you're right. Indiana has not played well on the road. And it was going to be tough to win that game against Michigan State on Tuesday, but Indiana should have put up a better fight than the one they did. I think both of those things can be true. It was going to be a very difficult game to win, just given the circumstances. Yep. But they didn't put up as good of a fight as they should have. Trace Jackson Davis looked a step slow most of the night, and it was the first time we had seen him look tired. He had played 37 minutes or more in 8 of the previous 9 games. He looked exhausted, and you hope that having a couple days off will give him a chance to get closer to 100% against Purdue, because they're going to need him to have a huge game. They're probably going to need 30 from him in that game, unless Xavier Johnson had a cryptic tweet yesterday about controlling the controllables, and I can't remember what the rest of it said, but it sounded like he's getting close to a return. Maybe Xavier Johnson pulls a Willis Reed and goes out there and leads Indiana to a win on Saturday. I don't think that's likely. Even if he comes back, he's going to be extremely rusty. But yeah, they're going to need a huge game from Trace on Saturday. It's going to need an enormous effort because Mackey is going to be probably the best environment in the Big Ten this year on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think what's going to be interesting is I think people look at how Indiana played against Michigan State and expect, they haven't played well on the road and maybe expect them to come out in a similar fashion. I don't expect that at all. And I talked about this earlier in the show. I don't think under the Archie Miller era that this was a program that took the Purdue game all that seriously. Like, I don't think they differentiated it from any other game on the schedule. I think Mike Woodson's different. I think this game means something to him. Last year it was, I would be surprised if it wasn't similar to last year, right? Indiana won a close game at Assembly Hall, and then it came down to the wire again at Mackey Arena. That's kind of the game I expect. I do think that, and I think it means something to Trace Jackson Davis. You're not going to win a Big Ten regular season championship this year, but you can potentially prevent Purdue from doing so, or at least preventing them from doing it against you. So I think that there's a lot of incentive here. Obviously, Purdue's still playing for a Big Ten title, so this could be one of the better college basketball games of the year because of what's at stake. Indiana's obviously playing for seeding. They're trying to get one of the top 4 seeds in the Big Ten tournament, then maybe a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. Purdue's still hoping to win the Big Ten and potentially get a number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. So, this is as jazzed as I've been. I was excited for the first one. I'm even more jazzed for the second one.
The only thing I'll say is Mike Woodson, I think, has shown through his coaching style that he is way more influenced by the NBA game than the college game. And while I do agree with you, Dustin, he does know the importance of this game. He does know that what it means to the players, to the participants, to the state, to the fans. But also, he doesn't want his team to get too high because it's not a game they're supposed to win. Doesn't want them to get too low. You've got 2 home games coming off out of this that you can finish strong, that you can go into the Big Ten tournament with that kind of role. And so I don't know how much emphasis he'll put on it as far as getting it too high or not. But what's up next for you, Dylan?
Yeah, I will be. We're covering some NAIA basketball tournament action tonight. We have the Wolverine Hoosier Athletic Conference here in Fort Wayne. We'll have its men's and women's tournament this week, so I'll be there. And then I will be, of course, in West Lafayette on Saturday. Looking forward to that. It should be a lot of fun. I think people, to Dustin's point, I think a lot of people forget that last year, so Indiana won in Bloomington, obviously. They were a Parker Stewart 3-pointer away from winning that game in West Lafayette last year. If you'll recall, they were down by 2. Mike Wood, they have a timeout. Mike Woodson draws up a perfect play. Parker Stewart gets a wide open 3, and it just hits the back iron. They would have won that game if he made that shot, and they would have swept Purdue last season. And so I think that people kind of expect Indiana to go in and struggle in West Lafayette, and they well might, because they've struggled on the road. But they struggled on the road last year, and it was a heck of a game down there in Mackey.
Yeah.
Well, they'll certainly need to. They'll have the reasons coming off of that last game. They have what they need to do just that. Dustin Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Make sure you give him a follow. Cannot tell you how much we appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you again next week.
Absolutely, Jim. Thanks for having me on.
Yep. Thanks, Rip. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. For those of you in the market for a home in the Louisville, Southern Indiana area, Barbara Pop Real Estate Services has served those communities for 3 decades. Reach out to Barbara at barbarapop.com or Matt Lincoln, Matt at barbarapop.com. The great one, Rick Bozich, joins us next from WDRB.com right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda.
See you next week,
Dustin Sinn.
Dustin Sinn.
I hate all of you all with all those
All the
names.
D's.
Dylan Sinn, Dustin Schutte, Dustin DePirick. It's just thank God for Rick Bozich.
And on that note,
man.
How you doing, Rick? Good to see you.
Good to see you, Dylan.
Yeah. Have a good one, guys.
You too, brother.
Ruby's even in the room today. We'll see how that goes.
That's better. I'm glad her name's not Dolores or Debbie or
Diana.
How have you been, man?
Good. Been good.
Baseball started. Got the Sox hat on.
Some Saturday afternoon, 3:00 against the Padres.
You saw them? You watched them?
No, they don't. The first game's this Saturday. All of them.
Oh.
I think there might be everybody starting up either Friday or Saturday with games, spring training games.
Was it them that you said they're out in Glendale?
Yeah, they're right outside Glendale. They share a complex with the Dodgers.
Are you going out there?
I don't think so. Someday I will. I've done it once out there. I've done it once, a couple times in Florida and once out there. It's fun. Hopefully there'll be basketball games to cover in March.
Yes, definitely. Seems like that should be the case one way or the other.
Did you go to East Lansing?
I did not. I will go to Purdue. I'll go to everything else.
Right.
Is Cocaine Bear open today?
Is what open today?
Cocaine Bear? That movie. Stupid movie.
I don't know.
What the hell's Cocaine Bear?
You never heard of it? They advertise like hell down here, but it's because it's based in Kentucky.
Oh, I didn't know it was based in Kentucky.
I would have thought they would have called it Meth Bear.
Whoa.
Oh! Ba-dum-ba-ching!
It's based on a true story, but it looks terrible. I mean, I don't know how you do. I don't know how you.
Just the name of it reminds me of like that Sharknado crap that used to go around.
That's a great comparison. Yeah.
Louisville won another game, didn't they?
Not since
they beat Clemson Saturday, and Clemson just destroyed Syracuse last night. How many have they won now? 4. 2 conference, 2 out of conference.
They're getting close to that Tom Crean threshold.
Well, they got to get 2 in the next 4. They've only got 4 guaranteed games left.
One of them is Georgia Tech, right? The team they already beat once.
Saturday is at Georgia Tech. They got Virginia Tech at home next week. They could win at Virginia. I don't think they'll win, although Virginia was terrible last night. And then ACC tournament.
Here we go.
EB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Thursday, February 23rd, brought to you by our good friends at Bubba's 33, whether you're in Evansville or Clarksville. In Evansville, right off the Lloyd, of course. And in Clarksville, right off of I-65 at Veterans Parkway, pizza, burgers, beer. Rick Bozich, the man, joins us now. And, man, there's all kinds of stuff we could talk about, Rick. We've got baseball that started, but that's just for fun. College basketball is reaching its zenith, which we all get fired up about. Boy, everybody's looking at brackets. Who's maybe potentially going where, who's going to make it. Kentucky squeaks out a win at Florida last night, which was big for them. A close game. Indiana's at Purdue this weekend. There's just so many different storylines. Indiana women's team. I know you had a story on that with Grace Berger from Louisville, which is amazing. I'm still gosh, you hate to do the what if, but if they just hadn't lost that game to Michigan State. Can you imagine having a men's and women's undefeated national championship team? That would be, for Indiana, would be great. It'd be unbelievable.
You know, if Dawn Staley gets this video, she's going to be calling you because she feels like South Carolina is clearly the best team in the country. Gamecocks weren't too happy, but Indiana did get its first place vote this week from a dude in North Carolina. Yeah, you're right. Last night I was kind of channel surfing, watching Kentucky, and it was a great reminder of just how crazy it's going to be because you had North Carolina, which is playing for its life.
Yes.
Barely pulled out the game at Notre Dame. Got Alabama, which is a team I still voted number 1 this week, and they got all the other crap going around the program. And they were life and death to beat the worst team in the SEC, South Carolina, in overtime. You had what was another one? There was an ACC game, Virginia, which is, I think, the best team.
They lost, didn't they?
They got beat by 15 points by Boston College.
Yes.
So, I mean,
all that.
It's going to be. We've talked about this before. There are probably, I'd say this year there are 8 to 10 teams that could win the national title, and there's probably 20 to 25 that could get to the Final Four, depending on A, health, depending on B, your draw and who you're matched up with, and C, the thing that I think people oftentimes forget is usually teams that get to the Final Four benefit because teams are supposed to play in the bracket who are, higher seeds get knocked off before they get to them, so they have an easier path. Like last year. I mean, I know St. Peter's was a great story, but if you're North Carolina, isn't St. Peter's the team you want to play in the Elite Eight to get to the Final Four? I think it is.
Certainly on paper. You look at that Virginia game, and I'm like, how in the hell? First of all, does Virginia only score 48 against a 14 and 15 Boston College team? Then on the other side, how in the hell did a 14 and 15 Boston College team score 63 points against Virginia when virtually nobody else in college basketball can score 60 points on Virginia?
And that's why Virginia is always going to be vulnerable. I mean, they're always going to be a shaky pick for me, even if they have a great team, because of the way they play. it seems like they frequently keep the other team in the game because they limit possessions and the scores is lower. And then if they fall behind, they're not a team. When I saw they were behind like 8 with 7 minutes to go, I said, they're in big trouble. They're in big trouble because they're not a team that can score in spurts. And weren't they terrible from 3 last night? I think Armand Franklin was 1 for 8. He's their leading scorer this year. Did you know that? That's interesting.
It is very interesting, and it shows that maybe he made the right decision for him. But I always think, what would this Indiana team be like if he stayed?
Yeah, I agree. He would have been a senior, co-leader on this team. He's the one guy I think that's gotten away in the last couple of years that they miss.
Speaking of the Alabama situation, we were talking about that a little bit ago, and I'm not going to ramble on it about a lot. But
right.
I don't understand I don't know how Alabama goes forward. Brandon Miller, he scored 30, 37 last night, whatever it was.
35 or 37, 35.
Yeah. It's like, really? I don't know how in the world they can run him out there without just hiding their face. And I don't understand how the higher ups don't do something, but at the end of the day, I'm like, well, it's the SEC.
Yeah. It's a bad look. I think I read that every time he got the ball, the South Carolina fans were chanting, lock him up. And that at some point during the game, there was a fight in the stands between South Carolina and Alabama fans over this. I mean, this isn't going to go away.
It's not going away. Yeah, no, it's not going away.
No. And
that's
I know
just
that
beginning.
I know that he has an attorney who made a statement yesterday who disagreed with some of the characterizations of the initial story by the AL.com, but I would think it'd be pretty easy to prove whether the player who is arrested actually sent Miller the text message and said, bring my gun. Either there is a text message or there isn't one. They should be able to find that out. And I would be stunned if the police investigator didn't already know that before he testified the way he did.
Yep, and I think that's the way it came out, which makes it more shocking that they haven't at least said, hey, till we find something out, like Dustin has said, let's sit you down. But if he sits down, Alabama's season goes right into the crapper.
Right. And the other thing is, it's a bad look from Alabama is like when this first happened, they kicked the first guy off the team. And they made it sound like he was the only one involved, and they're going to move forward. And they drove to Vanderbilt and played. And then it comes out a few weeks later that there was another guy on the team that was there that night. And I think one of them, like from one report I read, like they blocked the car of the victim so they couldn't move or whatever, the car they were in, and it was one of the Alabama players' cars. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. It really is. And Nate Oates apologized in the statement on Tuesday night, and then he apologized again yesterday at the press conference. But for him to say what he initially said, I mean, that wrong place at the wrong time is going to go down. As I texted 40, I didn't think anybody in the SEC could say anything stupider than strong ass offer like Will Wade said. Nate Oates took the title away from him.
Yes, he did. This basketball season is, well, we kind of knew, but it's shaping up to be an incredible finish because we have no idea who is going to do what. Including some of the stuff we just talked about, how that's going to affect things. But I don't know how good Houston really is. They've, if you look at metrics, if you care about metrics, they have played a grand total of 5 quad 1 games.
Right.
Well, Kansas has more quad 1 losses than that. I keep bringing up,
right.
But they've got 16 wins to go along with it. Every game they play is a quad 1 game. So any team from the Big 12, I'm going to take. I'll almost take against Houston because I think they're just more battle tested. I don't know. Houston's still good, but I think not having that test catches up with you when you get to tournament play.
Houston's number one by default because they're playing in a league where they're not going to take the losses that everybody else is going to take. And they may well be the number one team in the country. I'm not saying that they're not. I mean, I'm sure they've got Marcus Sasser, who's probably a future pro, and that's the kind of guy you have to win. And Kelvin Sampson, we all know from his track record, is a good coach. And they're going to play defense, and they're going to be a tough team. But, if you're looking at it in terms of a bracket or gambling – I don't think they're a good value play because it's going to be a short price, and I don't really think they're that much better than some of the teams you can get at a better price. That's my view. I think they're in the mix as one of the teams that can win the national championship, but are they a clear favorite who separated themselves from everybody else? No way. I mean, Alabama beat them at Houston, right?
Right.
Yes. Wasn't it handily?
They were way behind and came back and won in the second half, I think is what happened.
I mean, the NCAA tournament's always, a bit of a crapshoot, but it seems even more so this year. Like I don't even know if you had to put a number on teams that you thought could win it all. What number would you put on? Is it 8 to 10? Like it feels like every year,
for sure,
there's an infinite number on teams that can get to the Final Four, right? Because of matchups, because things that happen. But you never really feel outside of maybe 4 or 5 teams. It feels like, I don't know. To me, 8 to 12 would be that number. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I'll just real quick off the top of my head. Houston, UCLA, Alabama, Purdue, Connecticut, that's 5, Kansas 6, Texas 7, Arizona 8, Marquette 9, Baylor 10. I mean, those are probably those would be my top 10. And you could there's some of these other teams that could get hot and do it, but yeah, I'd say 10 to win the national title and another 15 to get to the Final Four.
Yeah, and that's
it's crazy.
Which makes it fun is all get out. And with the rules of how everyone has to be split, the top 4 pick finishers in, let's say, the Big Ten, they'll be in different regions. Same with the Big 12. So we're going to have a good mix of teams out there. Purdue, I think it would take Indiana beating Purdue this weekend and winning the Big Ten tournament to remove them from their perch. They're not going lower than a number 2 seed, I don't think, no matter what happens. And I don't think Indiana can get higher than a 3.
Right. Indiana, I'd say Indiana's probably going to end up being a 5. And that's – I don't see them beating Purdue this weekend, and then they got to win 2 home games next week, which they should win. But Iowa's always dangerous, even though didn't they lose last night?
Yeah. Got beat by Wisconsin.
Right. Iowa's always dangerous because they can score. And then Michigan, we've seen Michigan come into Assembly Hall last year and beat Indiana. So and we've seen Indiana lose on Senior Day before. So Indiana needs to win 2 of the last 3 and finish 12-8 in the Big Ten, and win a game or 2 in the Big Ten tournament. I'm not going to be outrageous and suggest they can win 3 and win the Big Ten tournament because I'm not sure.
Never happens.
I'm not sure I'm going to live long enough to see that. I've seen them win.
Never happens.
I've seen them win this conference commissioners tournament. I've seen them win the NCAA tournament. I've never seen them win the Big Ten tournament. So until it happens, I'm not sure it's going to happen. It's like the Red Sox in the World Series.
Well, Jim's already calling a Purdue Indiana championship game in the Big Ten tournament, so he's already called his shot.
They're going to be in opposite brackets.
Well, that's the thing. Right now, they would be because they just have to finish in that 2-3 slot. You know, and they're not going to catch. Well, I'm not going to say they're not, but they're most likely not going to catch Northwestern. But they have to stay in front of Illinois. Maryland's there with them, but then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 teams that are just 1 game behind them. So they've got to take care of business, but they've got 2 home games to finish out the season. So I give Indiana the benefit there.
Yeah, I mean they're just finishing up a really hard stretch. I mean they played 4 out of 5 games on the road, and none of them were at the. We talked about this before, but they've had either the hardest or the second hardest Big Ten schedule because they've only played single plays against most of the teams at the bottom, right? Minnesota, Ohio State, Nebraska, Penn State, Wisconsin. Those are the 5 worst teams in the league, and they played them all once.
Well, Purdue, the lower 5 teams in the Big Ten, Purdue drew to play double. They got to play them twice, 4 out of the 5. Right. Indiana played 4 out of the 5 one time. That makes it makes a huge difference
it does.
in what you're doing. And I'm looking at Maryland. They have to finish the season against, Northwestern. That's
where's the game?
games, no?
It's in College Park, though. They haven't lost at home in the conference.
Damn. Yep, they're going to win that one probably.
And then at Ohio State, that's a win.
Which is nothing.
And at Penn State, so
it's very possible.
12-8. At the worst, they're going to be 12-8.
And that gives them the tiebreaker over Indiana, though, which would potentially put Indiana in the 4th slot, which would be the same side as Purdue, unfortunately.
Yep. Well,
so that doesn't work out.
You make your own luck over the season. Indiana only has itself to blame for not beating Northwestern one time and blowing that game at Iowa early in the year. That
is it. Rick, what is up next for you, man?
I'm actually going to see the Louisville women play tonight. They got 2 home games to go. They're not as strong as they normally are, but they're playing another NCAA.
What are they ranked now?
They're not in the top 25.
Wow.
They're outside the top 25 this year. They've had a bit of an off year. They won't host. This is the first time subtracting the 2 COVID years when there wasn't a tournament and then it was all played in San Antonio. First time since 2016 they haven't hosted. And I saw the bracket yesterday on ESPN. They've got them going to Iowa where they would play Caitlin Clark in the game 2. So, but Indiana doesn't have to worry about that, man. They've taken care of business. I'll say this, and we've said it before. That is the most enjoyable team to watch in the country this year. The way they play,
man,
they share the ball. They can all shoot it. They can drive it. Mackenzie Holmes' footwork is textbook. Grace Berger, in terms of her ability to pivot and hit mid-range jumpers, and they compete. I mean, they're really a good team. They're a team.
There's no one on that team that can't hurt you,
right?
Or on that floor at least,
right?
And I know Don Staley will disagree, but Ole Miss just took an Ole Miss win the other night, and Indiana women's team is the number 1 team in the country. That would have been incredible for them to achieve that, but I don't see that happening now because the SEC only has 2 ranked teams in the conference in women's basketball, I think.
Well, I hope the voters recognize Mackenzie Holmes and put her a first-team All-American because she certainly is. I mean, I know all the talk is about Caitlin Clark and Elia Boston at South Carolina, and I don't remember the player's name at LSU who's really good. But Mackenzie Holmes, if you watch her play, I mean, what was she against Purdue? Wasn't she 10 for 10 at one point? I mean, it was her footwork and her ability to use either hand and use the glass. I mean,
and she's quick, man.
Yeah, and she's competitive and she's a leader and she's not selfish either. I mean, that's the thing about that team. I mean, there aren't any selfish players on that team, and that's unusual in basketball at that level. I mean, they really and they care. And another thing is you can tell after that they are so appreciative. They understand, like they're not talking about it a lot, but I think they understand what they've done in terms of big picture, in terms of creating interest in IU women's basketball and getting people excited about it. And after the game's over and the way they talk, they express that and give back to the fans, like saying, we appreciate, that you're coming to the games. We appreciate that you're taking notice. And you don't see that hardly ever in the men's game.
Absolutely not. And I expect to see the women's team in Dallas for the Final Four.
Yeah.
But Rick Bozich, cannot thank you enough, man. Look forward to seeing you soon.
You. All right, man. Guys, have a great weekend. Thanks for revising my schedule this week. Eric Crawford and I had a speaking engagement yesterday morning, so we'll be back on schedule next week.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Rick Bozich from WDW.com. Make sure you give him a follow. We've got Chris Denari, the voice of the Pacers, up next here on Indiana Sports Beat. Brought to you by our friends at Metalworks Brewing Company, where you find Dr. Hops. That's right, Metalworks, where you can find in all the Endeavor hospitality locations. But the Metalworks Brewing is a combination of a passion for beer, food, and the custom metal art alongside a desire to be actively involved in the community. You can find Metalworks Brewing Company's beers at all Endeavor hospitality restaurants or at Metalworks Brewing Company located right off the square in Bloomington. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for Hey, Chris.
Hey, what's up, guys?
How's it going?
Good.
How was your vacation?
Was good. We didn't really have much of a vacation because we worked on Evan and Meredith's house a bunch. So,
Gotcha.
So it was a
working trip.
It was a working. In fact, my wife is still down there. I just got off the phone with her. We pivoted. We drove down, and then I flew back Tuesday night. And she stayed down there because she's painting. They're expecting a little boy in July. So
congrats.
Yeah, thanks. So one of the bedrooms is a nursery. So Evan put up board and batten and wainscoting and all kinds of stuff. And they're getting their 2 upstairs. They have a townhouse, and they're getting their 2 upstairs bedrooms recarpeted tomorrow.
Okay.
So he's got a lot of cash outlay going out right now.
All in preparation.
Yeah. So
is this their first?
Yeah, it's their first. It'll be our second grandson. I had our 14-month-old yesterday. So that's part of the reason I flew back. One, I have a game tonight, and that way somebody could watch Archer yesterday. So I hung out with Archer pretty much all day.
Nice.
So yeah, it was good. Yeah, and then we leave tomorrow on a 10-day road trip.
Yeah.
So Celtics tonight, and then what's odd about the road trip is we play Saturday in Orlando, then fly right after the game to Dallas, and don't play Dallas until Tuesday. So we've got a couple of off days there. Then we go to San Antonio on Thursday, and then don't play in Chicago until Sunday. So
it's a little bit more spaced out.
Yeah, it's crazy how after the All-Star break, you only have 22 games, and they space them out. Yeah. Where before the All-Star break, they're just throwing them in there. That
4 games in 7 nights.
Yeah. So
it seemed like they were. It seemed like when I looked at the schedule before the All-Star break, it was every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or Monday, Wednesday. I don't know. For a while there, it was like the same 3 days every week. It seemed like.
Yeah, I mean, in the old days when I first started, because you couldn't play on Thursday up against TNT's National. Now you can. It seemed like, and you had way more back-to-backs. We'd play Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday.
With Dr. Hops' Brewing, Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, February 23rd, brought to you by our friends at Courtroom Sports Grill down in Bedford. Great Cajun cuisine, lunch spot, place to take the family for dinner or catch a game with their friends. Speaking of games, Chris Denari, the voice of the Pacers, as the games continue in the ongoing NBA season that will last until, June?
Yeah, NBA Finals will be in June. It is crazy because everyone, looks at after the All-Star break as the second half of the season when it's really the last quarter of the season. We've already played 60 games, 22 left starting tonight with the Celtics. So we were just talking off air. It's funny how the schedule is a little bit more spaced out in the final 2 months than it was in the first 4 months. First 4 months, man, you're cramming as many games in as possible. And now, on this upcoming road trip that I leave on tomorrow, we've got a couple of times where we have two days between games, which is like gold, really, when you're looking at an NBA schedule when you have that much time off. So it'll be an interesting last 22 games for the Pacers. They got a nice win before the All-Star break, rallied again from a huge deficit. On paper, it looks like the schedule is a little bit more manageable, but I would counter that. You've got to play Philadelphia twice. You got to play Milwaukee twice. You got to play Dallas twice. You have some of the teams that are near the top of the East and the West that you've got to counter here in the final 22 games.
Well, you come out of the All-Star break and you don't get a light load, right? You got to play one of the best teams in the NBA and in the Boston Celtics tonight. Kind of what's the mindset for the Pacers coming out of that All-Star break? They're obviously well represented. Tyrese Halliburton did some good things in that All-Star game when he got to play. But they did. I mean, the Pacers went through that bumpy stretch there where I don't remember what it was, 15 of 17 lost to 16 of 18, whatever it was. But how do you kind of recharge the batteries if you're the Pacers right now? And you got to go right out of the gate, right? Because Boston's not going to be laying it easy on you.
Yeah, that was the other team I forgot to mention. You've got Boston twice in the final 22 games tonight and sometime a little bit later in March. I mean, the good thing is coming out of the All-Star break, you are probably as healthy as you've been the entire year. So you have a full complement of players that you can rely on. I still think it's a matter of it's a growth opportunity for all of these players because you're still while you're still focused on can you get into that play-in situation? Can you get into 7 through 10? I think it'd be very hard to get into the top 6. But you're still trying to grow these guys so that a year or two down the road, when you really are making what I think is a legitimate push toward the top of the East, that they have some experiences in these situations. Because I really believe as you look at a lot of the teams in the league, the Pacers are well set for the next 2 to 3 years from a cap space standpoint, from a youth standpoint, from a core standpoint. They're only a half game behind the Chicago Bulls, who won 46 games last year, and they've centered their team around 3 veterans and 3 All-Stars in Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Nick Vucevic. So I think there are going to be a number of teams that are like the Bulls that are going to have to pivot in the next 1 to 2 years and say, look, we gave it our shot. We're going to have to do something different. That's going to set the table, I think, for the Pacers to get back to where they want to be, and that's a top 4-5 team in the Eastern Conference. If you can do that, then you have a chance to be a contender.
Right, and you bring up a good point. This team, they're not trying to miss the playoffs, but I remember going back to before the season started, and there was, I don't know about an expectation, but there was an understanding that maybe we're not going to be the best team. We know we're a young team. We're trying to build for the future. But I remember also Miles Turner saying, watch out, though, maybe we can sneak into the playoffs and surprise some people. To me, down this final stretch, the wins and losses aren't as important. Yeah, you'd love to see him get in the playoffs. You'd love to see him get in that play-in scenario for sure. But I think not even just the players, but I feel like the fans, they just want to continue to see good basketball, continue to see improvement, that exciting brand that we saw through the first, whatever it was, 48, 50 games of the season where they were competitive in each and every game. And I think that just builds for and speaks to the point that this future is really bright, especially with the core players they have.
Yeah, I think a really good sign was toward the end of December into January when you were 23-18 and you had won 8 of 10. And then you went into that stretch where you lost 16 of 18. Yet the crowds were still strong at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. They went through a period, I think, they had 4 or 5 games where they had either sellouts or near sellouts, and that was a time that they were really struggling to win games. So I do think that the fan base has attached themselves to this group. Now, you have to move forward, and eventually you have to win and be successful, or that could go away. But I do think that people enjoy watching this group and understanding what they're about. I just saw somebody asked a question about the future and picks. I mean, they are set in a strong position this summer because they will have 3 first-round draft picks. They'll have their own. They'll have Boston, who they play tonight. They'll have Cleveland. Now, Cleveland and Boston, those picks are going to be, Boston's got the best record in the NBA, so that could be number 30. Cleveland could be in the 20s. But they also could have the first pick of the second round again. So they could have 4 top 31 picks into the summer, plus a lot of cap space, plus their young roster. As Kevin Pritchard likes to say, and it's a word that I think he made up, but I like it. He said, we have a lot of optionality. we can go a lot of different directions. And so I think that's the thing that you want. Guys, I was just online earlier today looking at NFL teams, and I think it was USA Today had like 6 teams that are so far over the cap that they've got to cut really good players. They've got to pay a lot of money to their quarterback. What do? And so those teams don't have a lot of optionality. And I think the Pacers going into the summer have that. And I think that's the exciting thing. Yeah, these 22 games are important to see what you can do, but you're also trying to build for the future and put yourself in the best position in 2023, 24, 25 to get back to the top of the Eastern Conference.
I don't remember if I watched.
Just real quick, Dustin, because I thought I heard this word the other day myself. And like you, I said, I really like that word. I had not heard it before. So I, being the sleuth, I took straight to the dictionary.
You did?
Then and now to confirm. But optionality is the quality of being available to be chosen, but not obligatory.
Ooh, okay. So it's in the Webster's dictionary.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I did the exact same thing.
I was the same thing. I was like, I've never heard that word. Is that a real word? So I looked it up the other day, and I'm like, going, not only is it a real word, it's got a cool ass definition too. I'm like, wow. I'm like, listen to this. Just all you have to do is memorize the definition of optionality, and your IQ goes up 20 points.
That's right. And I do want to say this before I forget this, as I'm looking at the backgrounds for those that are watching. Jim has a real cool background with all those things, but Dustin has the best background, Jim, because he's got golf clubs behind him.
That's it. And that's it.
That's all he needs.
First of all, I just want to say that they're behind me, Chris, because they do more good in my room up against the wall than they do on the actual golf course. They can't hurt me in here. They're not going to fly out of my hands. They're not going to rack up a 9 on a par 3. So I'm in good shape.
Well, just that we were talking off air, and I was down in Myrtle Beach visiting our son and daughter-in-law. I didn't even take my golf clubs for this trip.
No.
I told Dustin, Jim, it was a working trip. It was work around their house to help them out get ready for a baby that's coming in July. So I'm envious of those. I'm envious of those golf clubs.
You are like Mr. Father of the Year, Grandfather of the Year, Man of the Year, anything of the year. But hell, you might as well be the College Player of the Year. Forget about Zach Edey and Trace Jackson Davis. We're going to make it Chris Denari. Screw all those arguments, baby. He is the man.
I was going to say we've got a documentary series coming out. It's going to be called DIY Denari. Yeah. We'll air it. I don't know what streaming service we're going to air it on, but he's got the gardening in the summer. He just helped with the
the Pac-12 may need to add it to their football program to boost that.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I'm very handy outside. I'm very good, but when it comes to painting and all that kind of stuff, that's where my wife is the star. I was very good for the 4 or 5 days that we were down there. Hey, you need me to run to Lowe's? Okay, what do you got? I go to Lowe's. Hey, do you guys need lunch? Okay. Oh, coffees. Do we need to go to Starbucks? Okay. I was very good at that. Now, put me outside, with a mower and a weed eater and mulch. Hey, I'm awesome. But don't give me a paintbrush because that's not what I do very well.
Let's see. One other thing I was going to add. Oh, dang on it. I forgot. Dustin, you go ahead.
I thought he was going to look up another word.
You threw out. I was waiting for him to throw out another word. What are we going to see tonight, Chris? In tonight's game, back from action, Celtics Pacers. Like I said earlier, you got to be ready for this one. But as you mentioned, they're going to be as healthy as they've been in a while. I'm sure that All-Star break was really nice to everybody. But what can we expect in tonight's game?
Well, I'm sure that the Boston Celtics will remember what happened to them back in December. I don't know if you guys remember, but this was a game that was very unlike what we've seen the Pacers do this year. 28 times this year, the Pacers have trailed by double figures in the first quarter. Okay, 28 times. They trailed by 24 in the first quarter against Chicago, came back to win. Back in December, they led the Boston Celtics in Boston by 20 at the end of the first quarter and led in the first half by as many as 30 against the best team in basketball, and had to hold on, but did get a huge win against the Celtics back 2 months ago. So I would have to believe that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, those guys, that they'll be thinking about that. But I'm just interested to see, the restart of the season, how guys come out, because you're right. Most of the guys had a lot of time off. I know for me, it was nice to have 3 or 4 days where you didn't have to prep for a game, that you could just do really what you wanted to do. But I think it'll be a fun night. It should be a great crowd at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And then tomorrow we head out on the road for 10 days, 4 games in 10 days. And in fact, 11 of the next 15 games are on the road. So tonight will be one of the rare times in the end of February and early March where fans will be able to see the Pacers at home.
Yeah, my opportunities have run south, I think, now as the tournament, college basketball tournaments are starting left and right, men's and women's going in every different direction. The thing I was going to ask you with Bally's, and I don't know what you can speak to, but I know that there's a lot going on with that. Fans have been dealing with that situation of not getting to see some of the games, and then we don't know what's going to happen with Bally's, really.
Yeah, I mean that's so far over my head. I mean, I think the good news is the NBA season is near the end. I don't think whatever is going on will affect the rest of the season. I think there is some concern about baseball, but I do think what we're finding is MLB, NBA, NHL, they all have some type of plan in place. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, it's such a changing world as far as cable and streaming is concerned, but we're on deck for the rest of the season. The Pacers signed a contract with Bally and Sinclair back in the summer, a long-term extension. So for those people, again, where we've lost people are the people that have YouTube TV and Hulu. I mean, we're on all the cables. We're on DirecTV Stream. Fubo just one of the streaming services just picked Bally's back up, but we're all good to go tonight, ready to go. Oh, absolutely. And by the way, I was just going to say, I'm really proud of what Terry Morin has done down with the IU women's program. I've known Terry a long time. She was an assistant coach at Butler back when I was the associate athletic director and the voice of the Bulldogs. Just a wonderful person, and man, has she hit it out of the park there. I mean, to see the crowd, I mean, it's been fantastic.
And how she has handled it, it has been amazing. She really has. Because with all the success, she's still looking forward.
Yes.
She's still looking forward. She's still locked in, I'm telling you. I've been in that press room too many times, and I would have been giddy probably, and she's locked in. She's happy, but she's locked in. But yeah, ditto to everything you said. Chris, can't thank you enough, man. Make sure you catch him on tonight's call for the Celtics as they're in town, and then they're on the road, baby, all over the place. The Bulls, the Spurs, the Mavericks, and the Magic to start it off. Enjoy it. Thank you, sir. We look forward to hopefully talking to you next week.
Okay, sounds good, guys. See you,
the
Dustin.
Great Chris Denari joining us here in the Indiana Sports Beat, the voice of the Indiana Pacers. Like I said, we've got more coming up. Dustin, are you in or out?
I'm here.
He's good to go. My God. All right. We're going to crunch it down when we come back. Brought to you by our good friends from Cabello, a part of the Endeavor Hospitality family of restaurants. Looking for something different for lunch or dinner? Visit Cabello Restaurant, located on the square. They're in downtown Bloomington. Enjoy the tastes and traditions of Southern Italy right here in Southern Indiana. And I just saw a sign. They're open for brunch now on Saturday and Sunday. You can go to brunch at Southern Stone, or apparently the killer is the brunch at Feast. It's just like, yeah, you better get in and get a seat, because it ain't happening if you don't. Lots more coming up from high atop the 18th fairway here at the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Echo cancellation, baby.
Are we doing the Woody stuff?
Nope. Don't even mention it. Nope.
Well, too late.
I didn't want to remind him because I thought it was a bad idea.
We're not?
Well, what was the point of Dustin being here if we were doing the Woody stuff?
Well, I know because it starts in.
No, and you didn't. I never got a link to that for anything. So I got the email that you forwarded to me, but that doesn't have anything on it that I can use.
Yeah. We'll just run it tomorrow.
Yep, that'll be fine. I'll make sure I cut up some stuff for RC to have.
Here's a story of a man named Shiny Head.
Shiny Head.
Someone sent a text that said, "Tell Schutte to put a hat on. He's blaring the screen."
No, enjoy the baldness.
That's right. I wear a hat if I don't get around to shaving my head because it gets too long.
Dustin, you need to come up to Louder Than Life in the fall and crowd surf.
Oh boy, that wouldn't be fun for me.
I know you hate concerts anyway, so.
Well, I don't hate concerts. I'm just not a huge concert goer.
Bush was in town last night at the Louisville Palace, and I tried getting last minute stuff from our station, but I was too late.
The problem with that is, like, I've been to so many concerts where the sound is just terrible, and like they're half-assing it, and I'm just like, man, you run that risk when you buy anything for live entertainment.
I've only had one.
It seems.
I don't even want to call it a bad experience, but just not so good experience at a concert, and like for that reason, and it was Daughtry last year. And I blame, well, part of it, they had technical issues. The other issues that the venue it was at in Corbin, Kentucky is horrible. It's the acoustics are terrible. And it was way too big of a venue for the size of the audience that was there as well, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah.
It was just it just wasn't a good environment. It was just not. I love rock concerts. I never. It was one of those things like where I enjoyed it when I was there, but in retrospect, I was like, that wasn't that good of a show.
Right.
Someone earlier asked if these hats are for sale. Yes, they are.
Yeah,
you can get them. You can get them at. I have to check to see if you
someone
can get them
says
online,
Schutte shout outs. We're gonna do that.
I don't have any.
I don't have any.
I don't know what you want me to shout out. I have not been. We haven't
in the morning.
We haven't
Welcome
done
to
it.
Schutte shout outs. This is Dustin Schutte.
The restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Thursday, February 23. As February coming to a close. Not quite. We've got another week of it. I cannot wait till we're within a week of March. But Matt Taylor was on with us earlier, the voice of the Colts. And did he not say it was going to be 70 in Indianapolis?
He did say that.
Okay, well, that's warmer than what I'm seeing.
Well, maybe it was just close. Now we got to check the. Now you got to check all the apps.
I'm not in Indianapolis, but I'm not that far south to where I would have thought would have made that much difference. But
you never know.
High of 63 expected here today.
That's what it says in Indianapolis too. I just pulled it up. Now, what I will say is my weather app is often wrong, so he might have a better weather app than me.
Well, shocker to that. Indiana taking on Purdue this weekend in the men's. And the women, don't forget,
travel to Iowa City to take on Caitlin Clark and Iowa's women's team, who just got freaking embarrassed. I mean, you want to talk about getting boat raced? They're the number 7 team in the they got beat by 28.
Yeah, it was more than, I don't remember what the final score was, but it wasn't close. I know that.
They almost got beat by 30.
Yeah. Maryland could not miss. Could not miss a shot in that game.
And Maryland may be the team Indiana women have to worry about more in the Big Ten tournament than Iowa.
Well, see, what's interesting is Iowa's obviously Caitlin Clark and Megan. I can never pronounce her last name.
Cinziano, yeah.
Yeah, something. Yeah. I think Maryland is a better team, but they are streaky. So I think Indiana's the most complete team because I think they have great players and they're a full team.
I think Indiana may be the most complete
but if Maryland
team in
hits
the country.
Well, we'll probably find out in the NCAA tournament. But if Maryland starts hitting shots, they are tough to slow down because they move the ball quickly. So if they're hitting from behind the 3-point line, you're right. They could be a bigger threat to Indiana than Iowa. But Maryland ran them out of the gym, and that's Indiana obviously still wants to go in there and win.
Well, it changes the environment.
Arena, but it does.
It really changes the environment because Indiana would have gone in there with the pressure of having to win the Big Ten outright.
Right
now, that's over. That's off, and I'm like, that should be a huge advantage to Indiana. I don't know if it helps or hurts. I don't know if I would rather need that pressure to go in there to win, but I don't think this team needs that. They have not shown me a fall off where on the men's side, we'll see them play great defense one game, and the next game, like, where the hell are they? You don't see that with the women's team. You get the same thing every time. You want to talk about putting a cherry on top of the ice cream, man. Going to Iowa and getting a win. That would do it. Especially that one loss. Oh man. It would be so cool if they were undefeated. Just to talk about it in that regard. And it is truly cool. I don't know how people have really thought, but the Indiana women's team has a legitimate shot at winning the national championship. This is not hyperbole, people.
Right.
I believe that they are one of the top 2 teams in the country without question. I don't know how good. I know South Carolina is really good. They won the national championship last year. And they've got a couple of top players. The SEC is not nearly as tough as the Big Ten. So they'll get challenged. But it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And this, like we said, this is a team that they've got multiple weapons. It's not like you have to depend on one player every game to get hers in order to be successful. So that's what makes this team so dangerous. It makes them fun to watch. They've dealt with some adversity with injuries earlier in the season, and they handled that masterfully. So, yeah, go in there and get a win at Iowa, go into the Big Ten tournament with a ton of momentum, and this is a national championship contender. Like you said, I expect them to get to the Final Four. And that's,
absolutely do.
It's for this program, and that's Sherry Morin to have done what she's done.
Well, that's hard to say about any team. I don't care what sport it is. I don't.
Any team in any right, exactly.
Unless we're talking about Indiana men's soccer,
true.
You cannot say, I expect them to be in the Final Four. Speaking of which, I saw Coach Todd Yeagley the other night at Southern Stone, and they're having dinner. He and his wife. So he's enjoying a little off season, as not much as they have split seasons of training. Tonight on the hardwood, boy, here's a battle in the Big Ten. Penn State at Ohio State. You've got Penn one State team that is out of the tournament. Ohio State has had just a horrific year at 3-13 in the Big Ten, 11-16 overall. Penn State They're 7-9 in the Big Ten, even though they're 16-11 overall. I just don't see them making the tournament now. Early on, they were one that I had in, but just a few wins or a few losses too many. Look down and see what are some of the other games, good games you may have.
We've got Michigan at Rutgers, so that's an important NCAA tournament game for both teams. I mean, I don't think Michigan's going to get there. But...
Michigan's. I put Michigan in the same boat as Penn State, but a little worse because they had some issues early on, and they've lost a few more games.
But if they can end the season strong, maybe they sneak in. Maybe. So they need that win tonight. Rutgers can kind of, I don't know that they'll solidify it, but they give themselves a little bit of breathing room with the win tonight. And then the big one here tonight, Northwestern on the road against Illinois. That's the 9 p.m. tip on Big Ten Network. Northwestern in the top 25. They've won, what now? Is it 5 straight games in the Big Ten? It's like the second time since 1990 that they've done that. And then, or at least 5 Big Ten conference games. I don't know about the non-con. And then, Illinois. That's going to be a rivalry game, and Northwestern, if with a win tonight, keeps their hopes at a Big Ten championship regular season alive, which not one single person in the country thought was possible. Probably Chris Collins didn't think it was possible, to be quite honest.
Well, here's where it starts to get slippery. All right, Purdue is safe. The Northwestern appears Northwestern's safe.
Are you talking about the top 2 spots? Because I would agree with that.
Top 4.
Oh, yeah. Top 4, yeah, for sure. Yep.
It's the last 2. It's Indiana and Maryland currently sitting in those, tied for those 2 spots, but they're not really tied because that puts Indiana in the 4th spot because they lost the one time they played Maryland. So there's a tiebreaker, I assume, which would put Indiana in the 4th spot. And that puts them in the same bracket as Purdue, which is not what you want. I was hoping to see them on the opposite side so there could be a championship, but that's going to be up to Indiana, and they're going to need some help from whoever is playing Maryland. The Northwestern game, that would be better for Illinois to win. That would put them up there in a tie. And if someone could beat Maryland, if Illinois perhaps had a tiebreaker over Maryland, it's going to get funky.
Wouldn't it be better if Illinois lost? It'd probably be better for Indiana if Illinois lost. Get some of these other teams with 8. Hand them the 8th loss.
Well, I'm just trying to
safe.
The 3rd and the 4th spot in the Big Ten. And then 3rd and 4th, and then you look at those all behind them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 teams all tied behind the 2nd and the 3rd and the 4th spot. And the reason we're talking about this so much is because of the double bye in the Big Ten tournament, which is critical. You have to getting the double bye is critical for a number of reasons. You get your team some rest. You're not having to play 5 days in a row. The NCAA tournament starts right afterwards. So, you need a little rest. And it's the best chance to win the tournament is by starting on Friday instead of starting on Wednesday.
Well, they're not going to start on Wednesday.
No, but Indiana is not locked in, and they were. But they have given it up, and they've got no one to blame but themselves. Like I think it was Rick talked earlier, that game at Iowa is going to haunt them all season. And it haunts them here because right now they'd be a half a game out of 2nd in the Big Ten and not beating Northwestern at home.
One time. Right.
Those 2 games, that's it. There's no
other, nothing else. That puts you at 5 losses, and then you're at a tie 8. Well, you would be technically a game ahead of Northwestern because that would have been one of Northwestern's. They would have had a 6th loss.
You'd be a half a game in front of them and solidified that spot. And now it could be the difference in not getting it. And that's going to affect their seed. If you're not one of the top 4 seeds in the Big Ten tournament, you're not, unless you come out of there doing great things, you're not going to jump into the NCAA tournament as a number 4 seed now. They kind of lost that cachet. Not unless you do something. You got to do something.
I don't know. They probably, yes, I agree with that. They have to do something, but I don't know what they would have to do. I don't know where that line would be. Do they have to win?
They have to
do they
get
have to
to
just
the
get to the championship?
I think they have to get to the championship.
And then probably depends on who they play. If they play Purdue and lose, it probably doesn't matter. If it's, I don't even know who would be on that bracket. If it's, let's just say Rutgers and lose, maybe that knocks them down a rung.
1 minute.
John Boy, who's on the program tomorrow?
First of all, RC will be with you because I'll be on assignment since we've been saying people have been on assignment all week. Also, we'll have our friend Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. We will not have Mr. Alec Lasley, unfortunately. He has, I guess we can just say he's on assignment as well, since that is, again, the theme of the week. And then we'll just see what else we can get, as you say, geared up for us.
We'll have it plenty more. We'll hear from Mike Woodson tomorrow as well, for certain. And so big thanks to everybody today, of course, starting with Rick Bozich, our good friend, the Hall of Famer. Chris Denari, the voice of the Pacers. Matt Taylor, the voice of the Colts. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Dustin Schutte, of course, from Saturday.com. John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. And most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we have no reason to be here. Fortunately, we're coming back tomorrow, whether you like it or not. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.